Dream of the Red Chamber, Chapter 48.
Have you ever noticed how sometimes the absolute best things in your life can happen just by accident?
Oh, definitely.
Or, how one person's total and complete disaster turns out to be someone else's winning lottery ticket?
It's that vacuum effect, essentially.
A vacuum effect.
Yeah. In any system, whether it's a forest ecosystem or a big, messy, extended family, nature it abhors a vacuum.
Right.
So you remove a massive, chaotic boulder from a stream, the water doesn't just sit there.
It rushes in.
It rushes in to fill the space. And the flow usually changes direction entirely.
I love that image. And today we are looking at maybe the perfect literary example of this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a story that really splits right down the middle. On one side, you've got public humiliation and this, desperate escape plan.
And on the other, a quiet liberation and an artistic awakening. It's a tale of exit and entrance.
Exit and entrance. I like that.
We're tracking the exile of Supan, the wayward, sort of brutish son of the Sioux family. And we're seeing how his departure just inadvertently opens the gates of paradise for a character we've been rooting for.
Shingling.
The Maid Shingling.
This setup is so good because the family drama here is, it's painfully relatable. You have the rebellious son, the helicopter mom who is terrified of everything.
And the sister who is basically the sensible CEO holding the whole thing together.
Exactly.
It's a masterclass in household dynamics.
Right.
But beyond that drama, it's really a study in destiny. It makes you ask, how much of our own potential is locked away simply because the wrong person is taking up all the space in the room?
That is the question. So let's set the scene. We're picking up with the Supan. Now, for anyone who needs a quick refresher, Supan is, he's a piece of work.
He's known as the bully of Jinling. But recently, the bully got bullied.
He did.
He was beaten pretty severely. The previous chapters imply he crossed the wrong people and learned a very physical lesson. So we're in the aftermath. It's October. His wounds have healed, but he is still locked inside.
But not because he's actually hurt anymore.
No, not at all. It's entirely psychological. The text says he's feigning illness. He is just so ashamed to face his relatives and friends. For a guy whose whole identity is built on bravado, getting beaten up publicly, it's worse than the injury. It shatters the brand.
So he's trapped in a prison of his own ego. He's just sitting at home, faking a cough when his mom walks by. He needs an out.
He needs a face-saving reason to leave. And that is when fate knocks on the door.
In the form of a pawn shop manager.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Enter Zhang Dehui. He's an older guy, over 60, who manages the family's pawn shop business. He comes to say goodbye because he's planning a business trip. And then he drops this very specific piece of market intelligence.
I love this detail. It's so real. It's not just he went on business. Zhang has a specific prediction. What is it?
He predicts a shortage. He says that in the capital, 3 specific things are in short supply right now: paper, incense, and fans.
Paper, incense, and fans. That seems like a really random assortment.
It does to us, but if you think about the elite class at that time, these are social necessities. And Zhang's logic is because there's a shortage now, the prices are guaranteed to skyrocket next year. So his plan is to buy stock now, hold it, and then sell it after the Dragon Book Festival for a huge profit.
Buy low, sell high. The classic.
The classics never die. He figures even with expenses, they can make several times the interest on their capital. It's a sure thing.
So Yupan hears this and a light bulb goes on. But let's be real. He doesn't care about the price of incense, does he?
Not in the slightest. He sees a getaway car. He thinks, if I go with this guy, I could disappear for a year.
Right.
He tells himself and his mother that it's to learn the business. But the author gives us his internal monologue, and it's hilarious and surprisingly self-aware.
Yeah, let's unpack that. Because usually Yupan is just a brood. But here, he actually takes a look in the mirror.
He does. He admits pretty candidly that he's neither literary nor martial.
Wow.
He's grown up wealthy but totally useless. He says he's never even touched an abacus. He doesn't know the world.
It's a moment of clarity. He realizes, I can't just sit here faking a cough forever. I need to do something other than being the rich kid who got beat up.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So he decides to use this trip to hide his shame. It's a mix of running away and, a tiny, genuine desire to see the world. He figures, win or lose, at least he'll see some mountains and rivers.
So he's got the plan. Now he just has to sell it to the one person standing in his way, his mother, Aunt Sue. And this conversation, oh man, if you have ever had a parent who worries too much, this hits home.
It's the eternal conflict, isn't it? The helicopter parent versus a kid who just wants to leave the house.
So what's her reaction?
It's immediate. No, absolutely not.
Shuts it down. But it's not because she doesn't want him to work, right?
No, she's actually happy he wants to do something productive. But her fear just overrides everything else. She tells him, stay by my side. Being safe and law-abiding is worth more than earning a few hundred silver.
I mean, to be fair, her son is a trouble magnet. That's a pretty accurate assessment.
It is. But Zupan fights back, and he throws a full-on tantrum. But he makes a valid point.
What does he say?
He complains that she's always criticizing him for not knowing the ways of the world. But the second he tries to go out and learn them, she locks him up.
He has a point.
He basically says, how am I supposed to mature if you treat me like a prisoner? It's the paradox of overparenting.
You clip their wings and then complain they can't fly.
Exactly. And he uses Zhang Dehui as a shield. He says Zhang is old and experienced, a friend of the family. He'll keep him in check.
But Mom isn't buying it.
Not at all. So Zupan goes for the nuclear option. He gives her an ultimatum. If you don't let me go, I'll just sneak out without telling anyone. And then he storms off to bed. Which leaves Anshu in a total panic. She's stuck. If she says no, he runs away and is truly unsafe. If she says yes, she worries he'll ruin everything. So she does what any smart matriarch does.
He calls for backup.
She consults the real brain of the operation, her daughter, Baochai.
And this is where we see why Baochai is such a powerhouse. She doesn't panic. She just looks at the data. What's her take?
Baochai is so pragmatic, she actually supports the trip.
Really?
Yes. But her reasoning is just cold, hard logic. She says basically, if he stays, he's the same. If he goes, there's a chance, however small, that he might change.
I love her philosophy. Half is human effort, half is destiny.
It's a very stoic way of looking at it. She argues they should look at the potential cost, maybe 800 or 1,000 silver, not as an investment, but as tuition.
Tuition for the School of Hard Knocks.
Exactly. She points out that at home, he has enablers. But out there, on the road, she says, who is afraid of whom? Meaning, strangers aren't going to pamper him. The harshness of the road might actually force him to grow up.
That is such a bold strategy. She's saying, let him go fail. It's the only way he'll learn.
And it works. It convinces Aunt Sue. She decides it's worth spending the money to buy him some smarts, even if he comes back with nothing.
So the trip is a go. And the logistics of this departure, this is not a backpacking trip. This is a luxury tour.
Oh, absolutely. This really shows you how wealthy the Xu family still is. They hold a formal dinner for Zhang Dehui, and Sue talks to him through a window to entrust her son to his care.
And they pick a lucky day to leave, right?
Yes. Zhang selects the 14th, but look at the entourage. 3 carts just for luggage, 4 long-distance mules, and the staff he takes.
This part made me laugh. Who does he take?
2 experienced old servants, 2 personal page boys, and, this is the best part, his milk father.
His milk father. So the husband of his wet nurse.
Yes, the man who has probably been coddling him since he was a baby. It really undercuts this whole idea that he's going out to fend for himself, doesn't it?
It's glamping. I'm going to rough it, but I'm bringing the guy who used to burp me.
Exactly. But still, for them, it's a huge deal. We get this tearful goodbye on the 14th, and Sue and Baochai watching him go with 4 tearful eyes.
It's a genuine moment. He's still their son, their brother. The man of the house is leaving. And that departure creates an immediate vacuum.
And this is the pivot. The bully is gone. The entire energy of the household shifts instantly.
So what fills that vacuum?
Well, first, Ensu goes into consolidation mode. With the men gone, she moves valuables inside, locks up the outer study. The household literally contracts.
And she's lonely.
She is. So she looks at Xingling Zhu, Pan's concubine, and says, why don't you come sleep in my room with me for company?
Which makes sense. But Baochai sees a different opportunity.
A very gentle, very strategic interception. She counters the offer. She says, actually, Mom, why doesn't Xingling move into the Grandview Garden with me?
And what's her reasoning?
She frames it as a practical need. She says her own maid is too young and flighty, and she needs a steady companion for the winter. Plus, she says she needs to buy another maid anyway, but doesn't trust the market right now. So Xingling is the perfect stopgap.
But do you think that's the only reason? Or is she doing this for Xingling?
I think it's both. Baochai is practical, but she's also incredibly observant. She knows Xingling has been gazing at that garden from the outside, just desperate to be a part of that world.
And Xingling's reaction, I mean, the text says she's overjoyed.
It's the fulfillment of a silent dream. She admits she's wanted this for so long but never dared to ask. The garden is culture, beauty, freedom.
And the very first thing she does, this is why I love Zhang Ling, the second the move is confirmed, she turns to Bao Chai and asks a question.
Teach me to write poetry.
Teach me write poetry, not what's for dinner or can I borrow your clothes? She wants to create art.
It reveals her true soul. Underneath all the trauma of her life, she's a scholar. She doesn't just want to live in the garden. She wants to participate in its intellectual life.
And Bao Chai actually teases her for it.
She does. She uses this great idiom, having got long, longing for shoe.
Okay, break that down for us.
This is a historical reference. A warlord conquered the region of Long and immediately said, okay, now I want shoe. It means being insatiable.
Ah.
So Bao Chai is jokingly saying, you just got permission to move in and already you want to be a poet. You're greedy.
But it's a good kind of greedy, an intellectual hunger.
Absolutely. And Bao Chai indulges it. But first, protocols. Bao Chai is the master of etiquette.
Right, you can't just walk in. You have to pay your respects.
Correct. Visit the matriarchs, visit the other girls, but keep it low-key. Just say you're there to keep Bao Chai company. It's all about integrating smoothly.
And then they run into Pinger, right? The chief maid from the other household.
A crucial little interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Bao Chai informs Pinger of the move. It's a courtesy. You let the other managers know what's happening.
And Pinger gives them a warning. She says, don't come over to our house right now.
Because Second Master Jia Lian is sick at home. Okay, let's shift scenes. I want you to picture one single household, a massive family compound.
Right.
And on one side of a wall, you've got this scene of just, absolute brutality.
Visceral is the word for it.
Yeah. A man is beaten by his own father so badly he physically can't walk. His face is smashed. And the reason? A dispute over some antique fans.
It's ugly, it's petty, and it is incredibly violent.
Exactly. But then you step through a moon gate, you walk a few hundred yards, and on the other side of that same wall,
you have this delicate, almost masterclass level seminar happening between two young women.
right, they're staying up all night, totally ignoring the chaos outside, and they're discussing the philosophy of poetry, how to capture the human soul in verse.
It's such a study in extremes, isn't it? You have the real world of dirty politics literally crashing right up against the ideal world of the garden.
And crash is definitely the right word. The whiplash in this chapter feels like it's part of the point. We go from greed and violence to high-level literary theory in, like, the blink of an eye.
But that structure is exactly what makes this text so rich. We aren't just looking at a story, we're looking at two totally distinct ways of existing. You've got the male-dominated world outside, which is all about possession, hierarchy, and corruption.
And then the female-dominated world of the garden, which is all about education, self-expression, and sensitivity.
Yeah.
So today our mission is to really explore that divide. We've got some fascinating excerpts here, a really grim conversation about this family crisis, and then this surprisingly touching interaction between Jiang Ling and Lin Daiyu about the art of poetry.
And if you think poetry and family politics don't mix, well, this chapter proves they are absolutely two sides of the same coin.
So let's start with the real-world side of it, the gritty stuff. We open with some pretty shocking news. Jia Lian, the second master of the house, is bedridden.
And not just sick, the text is very specific. He has cudgel wounds.
Cudgel wounds.
He's been beaten with a heavy stick. His face is broken in 2 places. I mean, this is severe physical trauma.
And naturally, when you hear that, you assume he did something catastrophic, right?
Right.
Like, he lost the family fortune or insulted the emperor. But no, why was he beaten?
Because of fans.
Fans. We're talking about hand fans.
Antique hand fans, to be precise. And this is where you really see just the absurdity of the greed in this house. The father, Jia, the elder master, he spots some old fan somewhere and suddenly decides his own collection is trash.
It's that classic, I want what I don't have, but the power to destroy lives behind it. So enter this character known as the Stone Idiot.
She Daisy.
Right, she Datesy. Now, we should probably clarify, idiot here doesn't really mean stupid, does it?
No, not at all. In this literary context, the archetype of the idiot or the obsessive is usually someone who is so pure in their devotion to something.
Like art or an idea.
Exactly. So pure that they seem crazy to the rest of the world because they don't care about practical things like money or status.
And this guy completely fits the bill. The text says he's poor, he's basically starving, but he has 20 incredibly rare ancient fans.
And the description is pretty lavish. They're made of shangfei bamboo, that's spotted bamboo, very rare brown bamboo, elk bamboo, jade bamboo, and crucially, they have authentic calligraphy from ancient masters. These aren't just fans, they're like portable museums.
So Jialian, the son, he tries to buy them. And, looking at the text, he actually seems pretty decent here, considering his father.
He does, and that's a key distinction. Jialian approaches the stone idiot like a businessman. He's respectful, he inspects the goods. Jia Shi, the father, basically writes a blank check. He says, give him whatever he wants.
But the stone idiot lives up to his name. He refuses.
He just digs his heels and he says something like, I may starve to death or freeze to death, but I won't sell these for even 1,000 taels.
And then he drops that incredible line, if you want the fans, you'll have to take my life first.
It's a kind of desperate integrity, isn't it? For him, these objects define his existence. To sell them would be like selling his soul.
And here's the interesting part. Jialian, the son, he actually respects this.
He does.
Yeah, he backs off. He tells his father, look, the guy won't sell. We offer him a fortune. He won't do it. Case closed.
But for the father, Jia Shi, no just isn't an acceptable answer. And this is where the whole system is rigged. Enter Jia Yukon.
The corrupt official. We've talked about him before.
Yeah.
The guy who always seems to fail upward by crushing other people.
That's him. Jia Yukon hears about this fan problem and sees a chance to, curry favor with the powerful Jia family. So he uses his power as a magistrate, and he frames the stone idiot.
This part is just infuriating. He claims the stone idiot owes unpaid government funds, which is almost certainly a lie, drags him in, and demands he sell his assets to pay the debt.
Which results in the fans being confiscated at an official price, so pennies on the dollar, and sent straight to Jia Shi.
And the stone idiot.
The text is chillingly vague. It says, the stone idiot is now ruined, and we don't know if he is dead or alive.
Just collateral damage.
Oh.
He's gone. So the fans are now in Jia Shi's house, but the fallout isn't over.
Yeah.
Jialian, the son, finds out how they were acquired, and he makes a comment.
And this comment is the key to why he got beaten. Jialian says, ruining a family over a few trivial items isn't exactly a skill.
Oof. That is a direct shot at his father. It isn't a skill. He's calling them thugs.
It's a moment of moral clarity. He's calling out the brutality of it. But his father, Jia Shi, he doesn't hear valid criticism. He hears defiance. He says Jialian is using words to block me.
So the crime wasn't failing to get the fans. It was having a conscience about how they were gotten.
Precisely. In the real world of this novel, having a moral compass is a liability. You question authority, you get beaten. And the physical toll is real. We see the maid, Pinger, going to Bao Chai to ask for medicine for cudgel wounds. It really grounds the violence.
Okay, so that's the real world. Greed, theft, corruption, a father beating his son half to death, a complete nightmare. Now, let's wipe that slate clean. Let's step through the moon gate and go into the garden.
The transition in the text is so deliberate. We leave that chaos and we go to the Bamboo Lodge, Lin Daiyu's residence.
And there's that parallel again. We were just fighting over bamboo fans, and now we're in the Bamboo Lodge. But the vibe could not be more different. We're following Zhangling.
And we should remember, Zhangling, also called Caltrop, has had a tragic life herself. Kidnapped, sold, abused. But here, she's practically glaring. She just wants to learn.
Yeah, she sees this as her golden opportunity. She tells Daiyu, it would be my good fortune if you could teach me to write poetry.
And Daiyu agrees. And I love this scene because we get to see Lin Daiyu, who's so often portrayed as just tragic or moody, in a totally different light.
She's a mentor here. She's confident.
She is. And her teaching style, her pedagogy is surprisingly modern. You'd expect her to be really strict about rules and forms, but she's the exact opposite.
Yeah, she basically tells Zhangling to throw the rule book out.
Well, she demystifies it. Zhangling is all worried about the tonal patterns, the level tones, the oblique tones, and Daiyu says, look, that's all secondary. Form is just the skeleton, the spirit is what matters.
She has that great line, don't let the words harm the meaning. That's such a powerful idea.
It is. She prioritizes intent, or li. If the intention is true and the emotion is real, the form can be forgiven. She warns Zhangling not to imitate these shallow styles, poetry that sounds pretty but doesn't actually say anything.
It's the difference between being a technician and an artist. So Daiyu lays out a syllabus. And honestly, it's a heavy workload.
Oh, it's a masterclass curriculum. She tells Zhangling to read 105-character regulation verses by Wang Wei.
100, just to start.
And that's just to build the foundation. Then 1 to 207-character verses by Du Fu, and after that, another 100 or 200 quatrains by Li Bai.
So we're talking about reading and internalizing maybe 500 poems by the absolute titans of Chinese literature.
Yes, but look at the progression. Wang Wei is the poet Buddha, visual, calm, observational.
Okay.
Du Fu is the historian, dense, moral, full of the suffering of the world. And Li Bai is the immortal, wild, romantic, rule-breaking.
So you learn to see, then you learn to feel the weight of a world, and then you learn to fly.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Dai Yu's theory is that once you have these three spirits, Wang Wei, Du Fu, and Li Bai inside you, you have a foundation that can't be shaken.
It's like learning music by listening to Bach, Beethoven, and Mozart before you try to write your own stuff.
Exactly. And she promises Eingling that with this method, she can become a poet in less than a year.
And Xinglin is all in. She takes the book of Wang Wei, which Dai Yu has marked up for her, and she just disappears into it.
The description of her dedication is lovely. She's reading late into the night. Bao Chai, who's a bit more practical, keeps telling her to go to sleep. But Shangling refuses. She's just possessed by the words.
Which leads us to the aha moment. Shangling comes back to Dai Yu after reading these poems, and she is just bursting with this realization.
It's a huge breakthrough. She understands something fundamental about art. She realizes that good poetry often expresses things that are logically, well, unreasonable.
Irrational yet true. Let's break that down with her examples, because this is where the theory gets real. She brings up a poem by Wang Wei, the desert poem.
Right. The lines are, desert, solitary, smoke straight, long river setting, sun round.
And Shangling's first reaction is pure logic. She thinks, why say the smoke is straight? Smoke goes up. And why say the sun is round? The sun's always round. Isn't that redundant?
It's a very literal critique. But then she closes her eyes and thinks about the scene. And she realizes those words, straight and round, are irreplaceable.
Why, though? What's the magic there?
Because in the vastness of a desert, looking at a single column of smoke, the straightness is the defining visual. It emphasizes the stillness, the isolation. And against a long, flat river horizon, the pure roundness of the sun becomes more pronounced. It's not about geometry, it's about the impression of the moment.
So the logic doesn't matter. The visual truth matters.
Exactly. And she has another example from Wang Wei. Sun sets rivers and lakes white, tide comes heaven and earth blue.
Or green. And again, she struggles. Rivers aren't white. The sky isn't necessarily blue.
But she notes the sensory weight of it. She says reading these lines feels like having a several thousand jin olive in your mouth.
Okay, we have to pause on that. A several thousand jin olive. That is a wild image.
It's a very specific metaphor. An olive has a complex, lingering aftertaste. It's not just sweet, it has depth. She's saying the words have mass, they have a richness you can't just swallow quickly. The white and blue aren't literal colors, they capture the overwhelming atmosphere of light changing over water.
And then comes the part that really got me. She connects this back to her own life.
This is the emotional climax of her lesson. Shangling remembers a boat trip up to the capital. They were moored at a desolate spot at dusk.
Yeah, she says there were no people, just some trees and a distant village.
And she saw the smoke from that village rising straight up because the air was so still. At the time she saw it, but she didn't have the language to capture it. She says, I didn't have the words for it then.
But reading Wang Wei's poem unlocked that memory. She says it felt like she had been to that place in the poem.
And that is the power of great art. That's what Dai Yu is teaching her. Poetry isn't just arranging fancy words. It's a technology for capturing and transmitting human experience.
Meanwhile, have you ever been, in the zone? And I don't just mean having a productive afternoon. I mean that weird state where you're so deep into learning something, maybe it's code or language, that you just, you stop being a normal person for a little while.
Yeah, that moment where the whole world just kind of fades out.
Yeah.
And you look up and it's 3 a.m. and you realize you haven't eaten.
Exactly. Start dreaming about it. It's all about obsession and that very thin line between dedication and, well, madness. So let's set the stage a little. Who are the key players here?
Okay, so at the center of it all, we have Shangling. She's a maid, which is so important. She's not one of the highborn ladies, but she has this burning desire to learn poetry. She wants in.
She's the underdog, the student we're all rooting for.
Precisely. And her mentor is Dai Yu. Now, Dai Yu she's brilliant, she's sensitive, but as we'll see, she's a really unconventional and very effective teacher.
And then watching from the sidelines, we've got Bai and Moche.
Yeah. They're kind of the observers, the critics. They're supportive, but they're also the first ones to worry that Shangling is maybe taking this a little too far.
Okay, so let's get into it. This really beautiful lesson on what poetry even is. It's not about rhyming, it's about getting the essence.
Right. And the text uses a very specific term for this. It calls it senmei.
Senmei. Okay, for anyone who isn't up on their Buddhist terminology, that sounds pretty spiritual.
It is. It comes from samadhi, which is a state of intense meditative concentration. But here, Dayu is applying it to art. She's saying great poetry requires you to reach that same state of total absorption.
So it's not a technique, it's a state of mind.
Exactly. And the scene starts with Dayu explaining a line from the poet Tao Yuanming. The line is, dim, distant village, soft, lingering smoke from ruins.
Just gorgeous. You can see it immediately. But Jangling has a real light bulb moment here, doesn't she?
She does. She connects that feeling of soft, lingering smoke to a word from a different poem they discussed, the word shang, which means to rise. And she realizes rise wasn't just a random verb.
Ah, so she says, oh, the word rise comes from that feeling of lingering. It's not just smoke going up, it's the feeling of the smoke going up.
And that's it. That's the breakthrough. Dayu tells her, basically, you've got it. Because she's not just looking at the words anymore, she's understanding the feeling behind the words. Dayu says, you have attained the sanmei.
Which must feel amazing for Shangling. It's like she's been initiated. But right after this, before she could even start writing, there's this little side drama with Gaoyu. He drops a bomb.
He really does. He just casually admits that he's been leaking their private poetry to men outside the family compound.
The leak. It sounds so modern, like he posted their private drafts online.
It's very much like that, because boudoir writings, poems by these aristocratic women, were supposed to stay private. So when he says this, Dayu and Tenshun are, well, they're horrified. They say, our scribbles shouldn't leave the house.
But Bayu's defense is actually pretty progressive, isn't it?
It really is. He just brushes off the old rules. He says, in this era, talent shouldn't be hidden. And more importantly, he tells them that the scholars he showed it to sighed in admiration. They were genuinely impressed.
So that raises the stakes, right? This isn't just a hobby. The women in this garden are producing work that the outside world considers high art.
Exactly. It validates everything. And now Shangling, the beginner, has to try to meet that incredibly high standard.
So, no more theory. Shangling asks for an assignment. Dayu gives her one. The topic is the moon.
And this is where we hit that first wall that every creative person knows, the trap of imitation.
Right. Shangling is so excited, the book says she can't eat, she can't sit still. She runs off and comes back with her first poem. And, well...
And Dayu reads it and basically just says, nope, throw it away.
Ouch. So harsh. But why? She uses phrases like jade mirrors and ice plates. That sounds poetic.
Well, that's the thing. It sounds too poetic. It's cliche. Dayu explains that Shangling is bound by the few poems she's read. She's not writing about the moon. She's writing about other people's poems about the moon.
I get it. It's like your first time painting and you just paint a square house with a triangle roof because that's what you think a painting of a house looks like.
You're just using symbols. You're not actually looking. And Dayu's advice is perfect. She says, throw this one away. Be bolder. Don't be afraid to be embarrassed.
Be bolder. I love that. It's permission to fail, but to fail while trying something new. And Jangling takes that to heart. Maybe. A little too much to heart.
Oh, yeah. She goes to the complete opposite extreme. Now we see her behavior start to get strange. She's just sitting by rocks, staring into space. She's squatting and, digging in the dirt with a stick.
Yeah. People are getting worried.
Yeah.
Bao Chai, who's normally so calm. So she thinks Jangling is going crazy.
But Bao sees it differently. He calls it geomancy breeding talent, which is a fancy way of saying the environment is forcing her to evolve, the pressure is on, and she comes back with a second poem.
Okay, poem number 2. This one sounds more abstract. Pale plum blossoms, wiping the clear sky.
It's artsy, for sure, but it fails for the opposite reason as the first one. Bao Chai critiques this one, and she calls it tuanzao.
Tuanzao.
It means far-fetched or labored. She says Jangling tried so hard to avoid the cliches about the moon that she forgot to write about the moon at all. She ended up writing a poem entirely about moonlight.
Oh, I see. So she lost the subject.
Completely. Bao Chai says it's artificial. If the first poem was a paint by numbers, this one is an abstract mess. She tried too hard to be clever, and it just fell flat.
And the second failure is what really pushes her over the edge. She goes from trying hard to being completely, utterly obsessed. This is where we meet the poetry demon.
Yes, this is one of the funniest scenes in the whole book. The text says Yangling is carving her heart and searching her gall. I mean, she is digging into her own soul for inspiration.
And she's just standing there staring blankly when Tanjin comes up and tries to tell her to, take a break. She uses the word jian for leisure.
And Shangling, without even blinking, just snaps back at her. Xian is from the 15 Shan rhyme category. You used the wrong rhyme.
That is amazing. Her brain has been completely rewired. She can no longer process normal conversation. Everything is a poetry problem.
It's the Tetris effect. You play games so long you start seeing the blocks falling in the real world. For her, the world is now made of rhyme schemes, and everyone just bursts out laughing. Bao Chai officially names her a poetry demon.
It's hilarious, but it's also a little unnerving. She's losing her grip.
It seems to imply you almost have to lose your grip a little bit. To achieve mastery, you have to let the rules of the craft take over your brain.
So the group decides they have to stage an intervention. They literally drag her away to look at a painting to try and reset her brain.
But you can't just flip a switch like that. It doesn't work. And that brings us to the climax. The breakthrough doesn't happen when she's trying. It happens when she stops.
Right. She goes to her room, but she can't sleep. She stays up, staring at a lamp until late, lies awake until dawn. She's completely burned out.
And in the moment she finally drifts off, she dreams.
And this is not a normal dream.
Not at all. In the dream, the struggle is gone. She just effortlessly composes 8 lines of poetry. She even shouts in her sleep, "I've got it! Is this one not good?"
Waking up her roommate Bao Chai in the process.
Exactly. She wakes up, remembers the dream verses perfectly, and writes them down. This is the 3rd attempt. And the book says this one was born of essence and blood.
Essence and blood. That's intense.
It means she put her entire being into it. She sacrificed her peace of mind, her sleep, her sanity, really. And this time, she finally nails it. She's done it.
It's such a perfect arc for learning anything, isn't it? You start with the theory, understanding how it works.
Yeah, but knowing isn't the same as doing.
Right. So first you try to copy, and it's stiff and cliche. Then you try to be original, and it's forced and artificial.
Then you enter the poetry demon phase, the total obsession. You're just loading your brain with data nonstop.
And only after all that struggle, after you've totally exhausted yourself, you step away, you sleep, and the subconscious puts it all together for you.
It's that classic U-shaped learning curve. You get worse before you get better. You have to go through that valley of despair, of trying too hard, before it finally clicks.
And Dayu's role as a mentor is so key. She never gave her the answers. She just kept saying, nope, not good enough. Try again.
She kept the bar high. If she just said, "Oh, that first poem is nice, dear," Zhang would never have gotten there. That harshness was a sign of respect.
And everyone else, even when they were laughing at her, they were still there. They were engaged. It was this intense, supportive, high-performance environment.
Which is exactly what deliberate practice is all about. It's not just hours put in, it's hours put in with expert feedback.